Hi, this is author-philosopher Ronald E. Springer from ethicsunderground.com. Welcome to Chapter 3 of the reading of Moral Armor. The Front Line, Our Moral Vanguards. Chapter 3, Part 1. We are all set to win, just as we are born, knowing only life. Enter the Dragon. Human beings have a natural affinity to do what is right as clearly as the need to breathe in, and I trust would always make that choice with the proper moral coherence. Being born and raised in a civil society, is it too much to expect that those who came before us would have provided such guidance? When a topic calls for it, we look with open eyes and questioning minds to those who hold positions of power and responsibility to reflect sound moral judgment. Yet whomever has been appointed or declared themselves the moral leaders of man, priests, judges, politicians, professors, those we expected to see out in front, have mostly defaulted on this obligation. The university intelligentsia remain lost in unworkable utopias that they devise outside the laws of reality. Our government accrues massive, unjustifiable debts that we have to repay. Our courts have lost their objectivity and common sense, and our spiritual leaders never had any. This is the greatest failure of our leadership on planet Earth, evidenced by the basic sense of unworthiness most feel, the steadfast paternal accountability dropped through the ages, the careless logic, the lack of humanity, and the lack of moral direction, all held back by cowardly, subhuman, get-away-with-it motivations. It is time to accept who the real vanguards are and who they are not. Living in a blessed era of peace has allowed us to realize implicitly that the most appreciable leaders are those who make the natural, practical flow of life more smooth and consistent. Our gratitude is owed not just to those who lead us to victory in battle, but to those who lead us to prosperity in daily life. As 99% or more of our lives is not spent in foxholes or running from tornadoes, it should be clear that sound moral guidance concentrates on long-range human progression under the conditions that make settled life possible. That said, the essence of a moral vanguard's focus is to clarify and make explicit, to employ, protect, and disseminate knowledge of the life-furthering attributes and actions of the best of men and their creations, in every context within the realm of their interest. They exist in all fields required for mankind's survival, as do the centuries of evil, so it is crucial that we learn to tell the difference. A true moral vanguard helps clear the way for men to live and to enjoy living. He teaches men to live independently by teaching them to think independently. He furthers ideas that foster and sanction the expansion of mankind's awareness of the world around us. Able to harvest the highest moral pride by his own actions, he seeks to exemplify and protect access to mankind's most sacred states of being. He knows that men have a nature that cannot be violated to their betterment, that a man owns his own creations by right and has sole authority to determine their means of distribution in trade. He acknowledges no authority over the actions of his person or over the product of his effort. Likewise, he doesn't try to do another man's living for him, never standing between another man and that man's own judgment. To do so would be to disrupt that man's life-generating power. He knows that the key to prosperity for a man and a nation is that men must be free to think, free to act, and free to keep the results, free from being forced to pay for the lives of others, and free from bearing their penalties or their misfortunes. He doesn't attempt to secure values for himself or for others without earning them, as the champions of welfare, unconditional love, and government lobbies do. He never approaches others with force. He does not subject men to arbitrary rules that cannot be identified before breaking them, such as antitrust. He does not seek his own sustenance or the sustenance of those he wishes to assist by confusing, conning, barring, riding, robbing, or murdering other men. A moral vanguard respects the sovereignty of men above anything he could gain if he didn't. Most importantly, the noblest can be identified in that they achieve their stature by life-serving means in a free market, by the voluntary consent of everyone who trades with them. There are three main categories of vanguard as I define them: the developmental, the abstract, and the institutional. The first deals with direct relations of man to man, the second, man to man's creations, and the third, man to the organizations of man. The actions of all three follow the same pattern for the same reason. For example, as moral vanguard, A president's realm is the good of his country, which implies the good of its citizens, which implies a morality consonant with their nature, which requires protection from physical force and the intellectual and physical freedom necessary to function. A producer's realm is the good of his business, which implies a morality consonant with nature, in order to harness the principles that make his product possible so that its production may exceed its consumption of resources, allowing sustenance and growth. The good of his business implies a morality consonant with the nature of those he employs, as no unnatural requirement can leave them free to function in the capacity they were hired for. An employee's realm is the fulfillment of his assignments, which implies a morality consonant with nature, by which to gauge the profitability of his actions in order to earn for himself and his family their sustenance. A parent's realm is the good of his and her children, which implies a morality consonant with their nature, protecting their physical health and guiding the progress of their intellectual potency, leaving them free to expand both experientially in preparation for lifelong independent thought and action. A lover's realm is the good of his or her relationship, which implies a morality consonant with their shared spiritual and physical fulfillment, satisfying every sense, supporting their mate's expansion of potency as a human being and pursuing one's own. Notice a trend? All living entities and their organizations must seek a course which allows an unhampered continuance in the flow of their lives. That flow is identified and preserved by a set of principles, a moral code of action, consonant with their nature. It is the philosopher's realm to define this code with respect to the nature of existence and the nature of man. No instinct forces man along a course of self-preservation. He must choose life by a process of thought, where the preservation and furtherance of life is the standard of value, and then take action accordingly. The body of knowledge that results from his correct decisions is a code of morality. A code of morality is man's volitional equivalent for the concept of instinct. Moral vanguards are the men who follow this code. Well, that's it for now. This is Ronald E. Springer from ethicsunderground.com. Join me for part 2 of chapter 3. See you soon.